everyone, it's Milky. Welcome back to my channel. So, I'm a bit nervous about today's video. I don't really talk much about myself on here. I mean, I know I share that I like cute things and like J fashion and stuff, but otherwise I try not to get too personal on this channel, mostly because I figure most of you are here for like hair in my eye. I figure most of you are here for like cutesy things and stuff like that, but I don't know. I think that a lot of people have trouble with body image and stuff like that, and I kind of wanted to share my own experience with that because for the most part I haven't talked at all about it on at least like my Instagram or on here, and it's kind of a big problem that I dealt with, but right now I think I'm sort of finally in a place where I can talk about it and like look back on it realistically and give my own sort of like opinions and thoughts on the matter and kind of, I guess, just tell my story. I don't know if any of you are interested whatsoever, but I don't know. I think it's good to talk about these sorts of things, and so I hope that maybe, I don't know, hearing this might be helpful for some of you, or at least interesting, and hopefully I won't just be terribly awkward. So I guess we'll see where this goes. If you see me looking down a lot, I have a lot of things drafted on my phone so that I kind of, know what to talk about when, because there's a lot to go through, and I'm kind of nervous about this because I don't talk about stuff like this, but I think it's good to address and approach. I guess in advance I should give like a trigger warning for stuff like weight and like weight loss and weight gain and like disordered eating habits and whatnot. Like if it's a sensitive topic for you, please don't watch this. You can go watch literally any of my other videos where I don't talk about stuff like this. So, yeah. And also I want to give a small disclaimer that like, my own experience with body image isn't reflective of how I see other people. I think that as long as someone is, living their best life in the body that they have, and that's the good body for them, any like judgments and stuff that I give are sort of only related to myself, and I'm only talking about my own experience. I don't want any of you thinking that I like judge people with larger bodies and whatnot, because that's not the case, and the way that people view themselves isn't always reflective of how they view others around them, so please keep that in mind as you listen to me talk about myself. This shirt is really low cut, but it's cute and I made it recently, so sorry about that. I guess I'll start with a bit of background. When I was a kid, I was never like overweight or anything like that. I never really thought that I was particularly pretty. It didn't bother me too much most of the time, maybe a little bit, but I wasn't too preoccupied about how I looked and stuff. I think, like a lot of small kids, small girls I guess in particular, because of the society we live in, I wanted to be pretty and whatnot and have people like me, but that didn't really happen. I did gymnastics and figure skating as a kid. Gymnastics was, I guess, particularly problematic. There were a lot of like super thin girls, and the teacher would always tell me like, oh, you should eat less buns and sweet things and stuff, and like, I was a regular kid-sized kid, as I said. I wasn't overweight, so that sort of like was always something that was in my mind. I also had this terrible girl who I knew in like elementary school and middle school. She was like the daughter of my parents' friend, so I couldn't really avoid seeing her, but she was always pretty terrible and like always sort of comparing my looks to hers and saying how she was a lot thinner and whatnot than me, and that kind of really stuck with me. So in high school I wasn't like super happy with my appearance, but it didn't bother me too much. I think occasionally I tried to lose weight and like exercise more, but it was never anything really extreme. In my junior year of high school, which is the third year, anyone's not familiar with that, I was sort of at my most confident. I was also at my highest weight, but I had like actually started wearing Lolita fashion, and that really gave me a ton of confidence. I'm like, wow, I'm so cute and stuff, and I always felt amazing, especially when I dressed up. I'd like compare myself to Greek goddesses and like ancient Renaissance art, and so like that was a prime time. I was happy. I wasn't worrying about my weight. I think like I wanted to maybe be a few pounds lighter, but I didn't let it bother me too much. I had other things on my plate. I was like trying to graduate high school a year early, which I succeeded in doing. I was training to run a marathon, which I also succeeded in doing just barely. And so like that was a confident time. I had discovered something that I loved, and I was, doing other things and whatnot, and yeah, that was good. So I guess the majority of the sort of troublesome things started when I went into college. In my first year of college, I was sort of away from home for the first time and whatnot. my weight was kind of still more or less the same. I don't know. I was online a lot more in sort of the J fashion community, and I noticed how a lot of the people were much smaller than me, and it sort of made me feel like bad about the way that I looked. I don't know. I tried like dieting and exercising more, but that never really lasted for very long because, like, obviously if you're living normally and then you start putting drastic measures in, that's not gonna last for long. But like my confidence was steadily kind of dipping downwards, and I'm thinking maybe I'd feel better if I, was thinner and whatnot. So in that summer after my first year, things kind of slowly started taking a turn for the worse. I was kind of a lot more determined to lose weight, and it initially started out like pretty okay. Like I started learning to cook more, I made a lot more healthy meals, and I was really interested in and had fun with that, and like I still love cooking to this day. It kind of started with that, I guess. And so my weight did decrease like a bit, and I got like comments and encouragements about it, and that sort of propelled me to continue onwards, because of course if you don't like your body, you will do whatever you can to change it. At least that was my case, and that was not very good. My preoccupation with my weight and with losing weight just kind of grew after that, and I was never really quite happy with the progress that I was making, and sort of always tried to do more. So sort of before the second year, I transferred schools, and I was no longer living on campus. I was living at home and commuting to school. So I was basically at school all day because I didn't have my own car, and so I would just like have my parents drive me to school and then pick me back up on the way back from work. So I was sort of spending all the day at school, and my obsession with losing weight was kind of out of control. I wasn't eating meals really until dinner, at least most of the time. Yeah, I just go and then sit during the day and study and sit in the library, and like I wasn't at home, so I couldn't snack at home, and so I was just sitting at school and studying and not really eating until dinner. And it was just, yeah, my second and third years really kind of blend together. It was just a lot of the same stuff, a lot of skipping meals. I was like counting calories all the time and stressing a lot if I went over like my daily calorie limit and whatnot. I would exercise a bit, but not too much. Exercising wasn't really my thing, and it still really isn't, because I'd like weigh myself every day and get stressed if my weight fluctuated and went up a bit. I'd get really happy if it went down. If it was like a big increase, then I would get so stressed out. It was ridiculous. And yeah, I just had this really big preoccupation with food. It was like this magical, wonderful thing that I could only sometimes have, so I was obsessed with it. I'd always like read recipe books and look at menus of restaurants, and I don't know, think about my next meal consistently, which makes sense, obviously. If you're depriving your body of food, you're gonna be kind of obsessed with it. But like, food shouldn't be a reward or some sort of magical thing. Like, we need food to eat. It doesn't have to always be super special. But that was what things were like back then. And despite all my attempted manipulations, my weight was never really sort of fluctuating or lowering much then. I was just kind of consistently miserable and always stressed, and yeah, it was basically all that was on my mind. I'm kind of amazed that I like made it through my classes and sort of, yeah, managed to function and do all of that stuff. And I spent a lot of time like browsing eating disorder forums and sort of looking into that and getting inspiration, which is a terrible term for that, but just sort of like putting myself deep into that world where like food and weight were all that mattered and nothing else was there. The summer before my fourth year and sort of the beginning of that fourth year of college was kind of at my worst point. I honestly thought that I was being perfectly healthy. I was working during that summer, and I was actually like bringing meals to work. They were tiny meals, naturally, but I didn't see an issue with that. When I started school, I was actually, having breakfast and then having a snack throughout the day, but it was still tiny. I thought that it was fine. It wasn't at all, and I was still always hungry and whatnot. But I still thought, like, oh, if I lose a bit more weight, I'll be okay. By that winter, I was kind of at my lowest weight since probably middle school, honestly. and I still wasn't happy with my weight then. I thought that, like, I don't know, I thought this is like the bare minimum that is acceptable for me. I can't under any circumstances get larger than this. And it was just a dark time. I don't know. I would like exercise more then as well. Not very much, but I think that it's sort of maintained that weight loss. I was still keeping track of calories and weighing myself every day, and that was also miserable. It was still a big preoccupation for me. Whenever we went out, or I don't know, if I went on vacation, I'd be stressing about food, but at the same time, like, yay, finally I can, give myself these days to, eat what I want and whatnot. And it's just sad to live like that. The way that I was living then was kind of sad. And also during that time I had a lot of problems with like binge eating, which is kind of understandable if you deprive yourself of food and then you start eating something. Your body is going to naturally want more because it doesn't know when you're next going to get food. So it was always really hard to, if I'm like, oh, let me treat myself and have a little bit of ice cream, then it was like impossible to stop eating that ice cream, and that would afterwards cause like a bunch of guilt and stress because of that. So there was just a lot of problems. And yeah, that was definitely the worst point. In that springtime though, I went to London and things kind of took a pretty sharp turn then. I kind of just got very tired of it. I got tired of stressing about food, of constantly thinking about food, of worrying about my weight all the time, and I wanted things to be easier. I was, I don't know, worried about graduation and then the next plans and stuff, and I'm like, I have enough on my plate. And I know that sort of turnaround is pretty sharp and doesn't happen often, so I don't know what happened particularly to make that happen, but I did have that turnaround. I was tired of letting food take so much control over my life and defining my worth by how I looked. I was tired of not eating the things that I wanted and of being so stressed all the time. I slowly tried to get back to a more normal way of eating after that. It was definitely hard, and there was a lot of guilt all the time, basically. I still wanted to skip meals, and if I did, I saw it as this like accomplishment and congratulated myself. But it's not a good thing to do. In sort of the last year, to give context, I graduated from university last May, can't think. So it's been sort of like almost 2 years since that worst time. In last autumn, I went to Boston for 2 months, and while there, it was a stressful time because I was looking for jobs and not getting anything, but otherwise it was good. I saw friends, I walked around a lot and was really active. I ate things that I wanted because there were lots of yummy things, and I'm like, I must take this opportunity to eat all the yummy things. I still wanted to lose weight and occasionally made attempts to do so, like skipping the odd meal. That obviously didn't do anything. I wasn't weighing myself because I didn't really have access to a scale, and I was kind of scared given that I was sort of letting myself go, as I thought then. In that time I gained a considerable amount of weight, and by the time that I had left I was maybe about 25 pounds above my highest weight, maybe 30, probably more like 30, and that was kind of really stressful for me after that too. I sort of tried going back to those unhealthy habits, but that didn't last long, thankfully. I didn't want to get back into that misery. There was a lot of sort of negativity around my body image during that time because I felt that I had lost something that was really sort of precious to me. I really miss those days when I was a lot thinner and whatnot, and I sort of glorified it. It's also a bit hard because of my online presence. I would consistently and always be scared when I was posting that someone would point out how I used to be thinner and how I looked larger now. Even when I was at my thinnest, I didn't very often get comments on my weight, so I don't think that it's something that any of you guys particularly noticed or thought stood out, but I was always so scared that someone would say something. I was terrified that people wouldn't like me anymore because I was larger, and it was scary. My camera angle keeps changing because I keep needing to put data files on my computer, so sorry about that. I went back to work in December, and since then I've sort of been trying to implement more being healthy. I eat 3 meals a day. They're actually decently sized. I'd like to be a bit lighter, but I'm trying to not, let it interfere with daily living and whatnot. And there were times in the beginning of this year / end of last year when I would be skipping meals and stuff, but not nearly as often or as badly as it used to be. I exercise when I feel like it, which isn't most of the time, and even when I do, it's really light stuff like a bit of yoga. Since then, things have kind of gotten better slowly. It was definitely a slow process, and there were lots of times, especially towards the beginning, when I felt just like so much self-hate and unhappiness with how I looked and whatnot. But I don't know, they're getting better. Slowly things get better. Yeah, I don't know, food isn't as stressful for me as it used to be. I can, make myself yummy smoothies that are nutritious and tasty, but whereas before I would have worried about the calories, now I just make it and drink it. I don't count calories anymore. I don't weigh myself often. I don't know, maybe like once a month or so. I can eat ice cream and enjoy that. I can make yummy things that I want to make without, having to count the calories beforehand and worry about it, and, not eat heavy meat things the days before in order to, deserve that. I can enjoy things that I like and at the same time be able to stop when I'm satisfied, because before I would start eating things and then not be able to stop, but now I can, sense when I've had enough cheese and crackers and ice cream or whatnot and not feel constantly sort of out of control when I'm having something that I do want, which is nice. Yeah. My body image is still sort of low sometimes, and I guess that's understandable. I don't know, I'm going to therapy, and that's one of the things that I'm working on there, is sort of getting a better relationship with that. I think I'm moving on slowly to self-acceptance. It's been a long path, definitely, and I think I still have a ways to go before it's self-love, everything's amazing, yay, because that's definitely hard to reach after you've spent so long just hating yourself and your looks and everything. But I'm working on it, and I guess I just wanted to share all this to maybe encourage you guys that maybe if you're struggling with similar things, it is possible to get better, but you need to sort of make the change yourself and decide that you want things to get better. Yeah, I vastly haven't talked about this on social media, but I think it is good to bring awareness, because a lot of people struggle with self-image in one way or another, and I guess I just don't want any of you having to go through all of that too. If you're struggling, things can get better, and they will get better. It just takes time and, unfortunately, effort, and a lot of sort of pain when you're in the initial stages. You have these sort of habits and rules, and it's hard to let go of them and think that you're losing control, but really you're gaining back control over your life. You're gaining back control over your body and how you feel. You're not letting outside things rule your happiness from day to day, and sort of your self-worth. Your self-worth shouldn't be defined by your looks. Your looks always change. As we get older, they change. As we, deal with other things in our life, they change. And we can't let something that's as sort of changeable influence us so much, because that's really not living, and you're defined by so much more. You're defined by how you act, and, I don't know, how you treat the people around you, what your hobbies are, what you're good at, what you're not good at. There's more to you than your looks. If you are looking to lose weight, please, please, please be careful. Be very careful. It's a very slippery slope, and you need to be very certain about what you want and why you want it if you want to start losing weight. I don't think that it's bad for people to want to lose weight. I think people have their own reasons, but you need to be careful, and I think ideally you should probably have someone there guiding you through this so that things don't get out of control. Because if you just don't like how you look, losing weight won't help. Even when I was at my lowest and super unhealthy, I still hated how I looked and thought that I was barely acceptable. So yeah, back then I think that if I had known that I would be at the weight that I am now, which isn't heavy at all or anything, and I don't really think that I'm large now. I don't know, I'm at an average weight. I think I'm at a healthy weight for my body. This is what I've been at for the past year of not trying to do much to control my weight, so I think that's it. I think that a healthy weight for your body is the one in which you're living sort of normally and as best you can, and that is what you should strive for. All bodies are different, so you shouldn't sort of push yourself to the standards that you see of people around you, or people online, or honestly even yourself in the past. I would sometimes compare myself to how I used to be 2 years ago, but I wasn't living healthily then. I wasn't living well. I look back on that and I was truly miserable. I'm sort of amazed that I got through school with all that, and I did internships and whatnot, because it was terrible. It was not a good time. And now, I don't know, I think about other things. I don't consistently think of like, oh, what's my next meal gonna be? Gotta be excited for it or stressed and, you know, control this, control that, do this, do that. Now I just kind of live, and I do still sometimes struggle, but it's nowhere near as bad as it used to be. And so, yeah, if you are struggling like right now, I'm sorry. I know how it is. It's terrible. And I hope that eventually you are able to get help. It will be really hard at first. It'll be so hard, and you'll want to go back to how things were before, but that's not good for you. It's not sustainable in the long run. You can't live like that forever. No one should have to live like that forever. And so I hope that if you are struggling, that you do get help, whether you yourself try and make changes to get better, or go and get help from like professionals and whatnot immediately. It probably would have been easier if I had done that before, but I just wasn't in the space then, and I think you need to be in the mind state that you want to be happier and that you want to be sort of more accepting of your body and sort of take back control that bad body image and bad habits can have over you. And like once you start making those changes and trying to be healthier and start treating your body right, it will get easier. Like, it's more or less fine for me now. I can have 3 meals a day and snacks and not stress too much about it. Yeah, I don't really have all those sort of terrible negative thoughts looming over me all the time like I used to. It does get easier, which sounds cheesy and like probably everyone says this, but it really does. And once you start noticing that sort of obsession letting go of you, whether it's obsession with food or your looks or anything, then you can start putting attention to other things like hobbies and friends and family, school, work, literally anything else that's sort of better in the long run for you to care about. Take care of your body. Be nice to it. There's more to you than how you look. Again, I'm not completely advocating for like people to not change their bodies and just accept how they are, because sometimes there are things that we can change, and if we do change those things we might be happy because it might be like the one thing that's on our mind, then once it's fixed then poof. But I think you need to know what your limits are, why you want to change the things that you want to change, and if that'll really make you happy. Because if you're trying to change your body, to change your body image, that's not really the right way to go about it. Because once you change that, you will always find something else that you want to change. At least in my experience, I always found other things that I didn't like. And it's just sort of hard to live that way. So I just want you all to live your best lives and don't let small things like food and weight and looks control you, because you're more than that, and you deserve to be happy with the body you have and to do other things in life aside from stress about your looks. This was probably a long and really rambly video. I kind of thought that I was ready to talk about this, but when it comes to like talking, I'm just like, I don't know what I'm saying, and I feel super awkward. But I hope that I at least kind of maybe conveyed some sort of point. I hope that this wasn't too boring or too weird, or that I said anything that upset anyone. I don't know. I'm just kind of talking about my own experience and how I felt throughout the time, in case it's beneficial to anyone. I don't know. I like watching videos like this where people talk about their own struggles with body image. I think it's helpful and sometimes inspiring too, so I hope maybe I can inspire at least some of you, whether you want to accept yourself or go get help or anything like that. Yeah, this was certainly different from my usual content, and I don't think that I'll be making a lot of videos like this because I don't know why people would care about these sorts of things about me, but I just felt like it was the time to talk about it. I am in a much better place than I have been in the last 3 or 4 years, probably at this point, and so I'm glad about that. I'm glad that I can sort of live more freely, I guess, and I hope that if you are struggling, that one day you will get to a point like this too, where you can just live your best life and not let things like this stress you. Anyways, I feel like I've been saying the same things for like 10 minutes, so thank you for watching, thank you for listening to me. The next video will probably be something much more casual than this, but I was gonna say, like, let me know if you have any questions, but I don't know what kind of questions you'd have. If you have questions, I'll try to answer them. I don't know. I feel very awkward. So I'm gonna go. Thank you for watching, and as always, I hope you have a lovely, lovely day. Bye!